It was early morning in Vancouver. The snow had fallen heavily all night, covering everything in a thick, white blanket. The film set was quiet, except for a few crew members setting up lights and cables. Everyone moved slowly in the cold. There, breaths visible in the freezing air. A man in a dark coat, with a scarf around his neck, walked onto the set quietly. No one noticed him at first. He didn't wear anything fancy. No sunglasses, no security. He just looked like a regular guy trying to stay warm. That man was Keanu Reeves. He had arrived early, before the rest of the main cast, just to see how things were going and maybe lend a hand. Keanu had always been known for being humble and kind, someone who never acted like a big celebrity. As he looked around, he saw some crew members struggling with gear in the snow. Without saying anything, he walked over and began helping them lift boxes and adjust the lights. Some of the younger workers didn't even recognize him. He didn't mind. Then came Amanda. She was new to the team, a junior assistant director with something to prove. She wore a headset and held a clipboard, tightly in one hand, barking orders at anyone she saw. Amanda had joined the production only 2 weeks earlier, and she had quickly become known for her loud voice, sharp tone, and cold attitude. She didn't like being questioned, and she treated everyone as if they were beneath her. She didn't. No Keanu. Not yet. As Amanda stepped onto the set that morning, she saw Keanu kneeling by a light stand, brushing snow off the platform with his gloved hands. She thought he was just another crew member slacking off. Her face twisted with frustration. She marched over to him and pointed. "You? Yeah, you," she yelled, her voice sharp in the quiet air. "What do you think you're doing? Not your job. Clear the platform properly. On your knees. Now." Keanu looked up at her slowly. He didn't say anything. He just nodded with a soft smile and went back to brushing the snow. But this time, he dropped to both knees in the cold snow and used his bare hands. Some crew members nearby turned their heads. A few of them widened their eyes. One even whispered, "Isn't that ... Keanu Reeves?" Amanda didn't notice. She had already walked away, yelling at someone else for moving too slow. Keanu stayed there, cleaning the snow quietly. His knees were wet, and the snow soaked into his pants, but he never once complained. He didn't shout back or tell Amanda who he really was. He just helped. Like he always did. Martha, the head of makeup, was watching from a distance. She had worked with Keanu on several films before. She knew his face well. And when she saw him kneeling in the snow while Amanda treated him like a low-level assistant, her heart sank. "I don't think she knows," Martha whispered to another crew member beside her. "Knows what?" The younger man asked. "That's Keanu Reeves," she said, shaking her head. The young man's eyes widened. She's in trouble. By now, the news was starting to spread across the set. Some people giggled nervously. Others were in complete shock. Amanda had just ordered one of the world's most loved actors to kneel in the snow, and he had listened without a word. Keanu finally stood up after finishing the task. His hands were red from the cold, and his knees were soaked. But he smiled at one of the camera operators, gave a small wave, and walked to the side of the set, still quiet. Still helpful. Amanda still didn't realize anything. The rest of the morning passed with more awkward moments. Amanda kept treating Keanu like an assistant, sending him to get coffee, asking him to adjust props, even snapping at him for moving too slowly once. And each time, Keanu obeyed calmly. No arguments, no pride. But the crew noticed. Everyone was watching now. The atmosphere had changed. People spoke in whispers. Amanda, unaware, continued her loud routine, walking around like she owned the set. Keanu's choice not to say anything, not to correct her, showed something deeper than just kindness. It showed strength, patience. He could have embarrassed her in front of everyone, But he didn't. He chose to stay silent and let her actions speak for themselves. And they would. Because in just 3 days, everything would change. The truth would come out. And Amanda would finally learn who the equality man in the snow really was. And it would end her career forever. The cold wind blew gently across the set as the second day began. Snow still covered the ground, but the sky was clear and bright. Crew members walked quickly from one side of the lot to the other, carrying cables, lights, and equipment. The set looked busy, but something felt strange. People whispered behind their scarves and coats. They didn't talk loudly like usual. They looked over their shoulders. They stared at one man quietly helping in the corner. That man was Keanu Reeves. He was wearing the same dark coat and scarf. His boots were wet, his hair slightly messy, but he looked calm, peaceful, and kind. He wasn't acting like a movie star. He wasn't asking for anything. He just helped moving equipment, handing out hot drinks, and checking on the younger crew who looked tired in the cold. He smiled at everyone who made eye contact, even those who whispered behind his back. The whispers had started. Yesterday, after Amanda shouted at him and made him kneel in the snow. At the time, many didn't realize who he was. But now, after a few quiet conversations and one shocked makeup artist, people knew. Word had spread overnight. Amanda made Keanu Reeves kneel in the snow. Hey, and he let her. Now, everyone was watching. Amanda, the assistant director, still had no idea. She walked with fast steps and a tight face. Her clipboard smacked against her side as she shouted at others. Hurry up with those wires. Don't let the snow touch the props. Who told you to stop working? She acted like she owned the entire production. When she saw Keanu again that morning, standing near a pile of chairs, she rolled her eyes. You again? She barked. Those chairs won't move themselves. Come on. Keanu gave a soft nod and started moving the chairs. T didn't say a word. He didn't correct her. Not even now. On the second day, when nearly everyone else knew his name, Martha, the makeup artist, watched the scene unfold. She sighed deeply. She's going to crash hard. She whispered to the camera operator beside her. I heard she's been yelling at him all day yesterday, too, the operator replied. He didn't even flinch. Another crew member leaned in. Do you think he's going to report her? No, Martha said. That's not Keanu's way. Back near the chairs, Amanda continued giving orders. She even told Keanu to brush snow off the director's tent entrance. He obeyed, quiet, calm, dignified. The crew stared at the scene with disbelief. A few even recorded small clips on their phones, hiding them in their pockets. Later that afternoon, the real director of the film arrived. A kind older man named Elliot. He was respected in the industry and had worked with Keanu before. As he stepped onto the set, he noticed the strange mood right away. He saw people staring at Keanu, whispering. He saw Amanda walking around like a general in charge of an army. Then he saw Keanu carrying a box of light bulbs. Why is Keanu carrying gear? Elliot asked the production assistant. The assistant looked nervous. I think Amanda asked him too. Elliot's eyes narrowed. Amanda doesn't know who he is. I don't think so, sir. Elliot didn't say a word. He just nodded slowly and turned toward the director's chair. He didn't want to make a scene. Not yet. Meanwhile, Amanda stood near the monitors, complaining about the delays. If people stopped acting lazy, we'd be shooting already, she said. Then she looked at Keanu again. And you. Don't lean on the gear. You're not here to rest. Keanu had simply paused for a moment to tie his boot. He didn't say anything. He didn't fight back. He smiled and nodded again, then walked away. It was becoming harder and harder for the crew to stay silent. Some were angry, others were shocked. Most were just amazed by Keanu's calm behavior. He didn't act hurt or angry. He never once told Amanda who he was. He treated her orders like any normal job request. No ego. No problem. But deep down, people were waiting. Waiting for Amanda to realize what she had done. One intern, a young woman named Lily, whispered to another, "What if he's testing her?" "Maybe," the other said, "or maybe he's just showing us how to be better." That night, when the crew wrapped up, Amanda left first, still grumbling about things not moving fast enough. Keanu stayed behind, helping an older technician roll cables and pack the lights. He laughed softly with him, offering his jacket for a minute when the man's hands started shaking from the cold. "Thank you," the old technician said. Keanu smiled. "We're all part of the same team." The sun had gone down. The whispers had grown louder, and Amanda still had no idea the man she was bossing around would sit at the center of the stage tomorrow. And it would be the moment her entire career would begin to fall apart. The third day on set began with silence, not the normal kind of quiet, but a strange tension, like everyone was holding their breath. Snow still covered the ground, but the weather had warmed just a little. The sun peeked through gray clouds, and the crew moved carefully over the icy paths. Something had changed on set. People walked slower, watched closer, whispered more. They were no longer just doing their jobs, they were waiting for something to happen. Keanu Reeves arrived early again. Just like before, he wore his simple coat and scarf. No one walked with him, no big entrance. He looked just like any other worker, but now, nearly everyone on the set knew the truth. He wasn't just another crew member, he was the star of the movie. The lead actor, a Hollywood legend. But for 3 days straight, Keanu had not corrected Amanda, the assistant director who shouted at him, ordered him around, and treated him like a stagehand. Amanda still didn't know. And that morning, her voice returned like thunder. "I need that tent cleared? And where's that quiet guy?" she shouted. One crew member looked over at Keanu, then back at Amanda. No one said anything. Amanda saw Keanu standing near a pile of boxes and pointed at him. "You, come help me with the monitors?" Keanu nodded without a word and followed her. She handed him cables and pointed at the ground. "On your knees," she said. "Plug this in under the stand." Keanu got on his knees in the snow again. His pants were already damp. His gloves were dirty from helping carry lighting gear earlier. T didn't complain. He plugged in the cable carefully, stood up, smiled politely. Amanda didn't even thank him. A few feet away, the sound engineer watched with a tight jaw. He couldn't take it anymore. He leaned toward his assistant and whispered, 3 days. She's been doing this for 3 days. "I know," the assistant said. "It's like a slow car crash." By lunch, everyone knew the story. It had traveled beyond the crew to the catering team, costume department, even the transport drivers. The whispers were all the same. "She thinks he's nobody." She made Keanu kneel again. He hasn't said a word. But Keanu didn't care about what they said. He continued helping where he could, always with that calm smile. Always quiet, always kind. Meanwhile, Amanda was getting bolder. She scolded him for standing too close to the director's monitor. She told him to sweep snow off the walk path before the real talent arrives. And once, when Keanu tried to help a younger crew member lift a heavy crate, Amanda shouted, "Don't waste your time. Just do what I told you." Keanu nodded again, never once correcting her, never showing anger. Some of the crew couldn't understand it. Why didn't he speak up? Why didn't he tell her who he was? But others understood. Keanu was watching, observing, and teaching without words. That afternoon, Amanda made her biggest mistake yet. They were rehearsing a complicated camera shot. The main platform had to be cleared for the lead actor's entrance. Amanda stood in the middle of the set, arms crossed. I want complete silence when our actor steps in. No movement. Everyone freeze in place until I say so, she demanded. She turned to Keanu. You step back. I don't want extras crowding the stage. Keanu opened his mouth almost to say something, but then he stopped. Okay. He gave her a gentle smile and stepped aside. The camera team looked at each other. One makeup artist dropped her brush in shock. Amanda turned to face the director's chair. Ready for talent, she said proudly. The director walked in and said nothing. Then the assistant producer leaned into the mic. Please welcome our lead actor, Mr. Keanu Reeves. There was silence, total silence. Amanda laughed out loud. Wait, what? Then Keanu stepped forward, still in his simple coat, still wearing the same gloves she made him use to sweep snow, still with that kind, calm smile on his face. Amanda's jaw dropped. She looked around. No one laughed with her. The truth hit her like a punch. For 3 whole days, she had treated one of the most respected actors in Hollywood like dirt, and he had never once stopped her. Amanda's face turned pale. She stuttered. I didn't know. I thought. Keanu walked up to her and gently said, It's okay. He didn't yell. He didn't insult her. He just smiled and took his place at the center of the stage. Amanda stood frozen. All her power, all her shouting, all her pride gone. Now the crew stared at her, not with fear anymore, but with judgment. Whispers turned into silence, and Amanda realized her mistake wasn't just a small one. It was about to change everything. The table read was scheduled for the afternoon. It was the moment where the entire cast and crew would gather in a large room to sit together and read through the script out loud. This meeting was important. It was where actors showed how they would deliver their lines. Directors watched closely. Producers took notes. Everyone in the room would get a sense of how the film was going to feel. For some, it was just another step in the process. But for Amanda, everything was about to change. Amanda walked into the hall a little late. She had just finished checking on some lights and giving more loud instructions to the crew. She looked around the room. Actors were already seated. Writers were sipping coffee. The director sat quietly in his chair, flipping through the script. Amanda, as usual, walked confidently to her seat at the edge of the long table, still unaware of what was coming. Across the room, Keanu sat calmly, flipping through his script. He wore a simple black sweater. Nothing flashy, nothing loud. He looked peaceful, as always. A few crew members nearby gave him respectful nods. Some smiled at him. He returned each one with quiet warmth. Amanda took out her pen, notepad, and script. She looked at the actors and rolled her eyes. Let's hope these people can actually read their lines, she muttered to herself, loud enough for the nearby assistant director to hear. He just looked down, pretending not to notice. A soft tap on the microphone made the room settle down. The director stood up. Good afternoon, everyone, he said. We're happy to have you all here for the official table read. Before we begin, I'd like to introduce our lead actor. He's been helping us out these past few days, quietly, humbly, and with more heart than most ever show. Please welcome Mr. Keanu Reeves. The room clapped. Everyone turned to look at him, except Amanda. She blinked. She looked to her right, then to her left, then slowly turned her eyes to the man she thought was just a helper. Keanu stood up, smiling. The applause grew louder. Amanda's hands began to shake. Her face lost its color. No one said anything to her directly, but the silence around her was louder than any words. She felt it. The eyes, the whispers, the judgment. Keanu walked to the front of the room and stood beside the director. Thank you, he said kindly. I'm honored to be working with all of you. It's been a good start so far. He didn't mention Amanda. He didn't need to. Everyone already knew. Amanda tried to smile, to act normal. She flipped her pages nervously and avoided looking at anyone. She hoped no one noticed her hands trembling, but everyone did. The director gave Keanu a gentle pat on the back and gestured for him to take his seat. Keanu walked around the table and sat right across from Amanda. Their eyes met for the first time, fully and clearly. Amanda's lips parted as if to say something. "I'm sorry, maybe." But Keanu gave her a small nod. Not angry, not cruel, just peaceful. That made it worse. He had every right to embarrass her in front of everyone. He could have exposed her. He could have demanded she be removed from the project. But instead, he chose to stay quiet. He let her show the world who she really was, while by herself. The table read began. Actors read their lines. The director gave notes. People laughed at funny parts and nodded during emotional scenes. But Amanda barely heard a word. Her ears rang with regret. She kept seeing his hands in the snow. She remembered how she made him kneel, how she called him lazy, how she treated him like nothing. Now that nobody sat across from her with more respect than she could ever hope to earn. The table read ended 2 hours later. People clapped again. The director stood and thanked everyone for their hard work. Most left the room smiling. Amanda stayed in her seat, frozen. Keanu stood slowly, packed his script, and gave a quick bow to the team. As he walked out of the room, someone called his name. "Keanu." He turned. It was Amanda. She stood, shaking. I didn't know," she whispered. "I thought you were just a helper." Keanu looked at her. His voice was soft. "We're all helpers," he said. "Some of us just forget." Then he walked away. Amanda stood there, speechless. She realized, at last, that this moment, this quiet, simple moment, was the beginning of the end. Her career didn't fall with shouting or lawsuits. It fell with kindness, with a smile, and with 3 silent days in the snow. The next morning, on set felt different. People greeted each other with soft smiles. The cold air still hung heavy, and snow still lay on the ground. But there was something warmer in the way people moved. The silence from the table read still echoed through the minds of everyone who had been there. No one forgot what happened. No one forgot how Keanu Reeves stood at the center of the room, calm and quiet, while Amanda realized her mistake in front. Of the whole crew, Amanda arrived earlier than usual that day. Her shoulders were stiff. Her eyes looked tired. She didn't walk fast or speak loudly like she did before. Instead, she moved slowly across the set, her eyes avoiding contact with others. No one laughed at her. No one mocked her. But everyone looked at her differently now. The same people who once followed her loud commands now stayed quiet when she passed. Some looked away. Others simply nodded without a smile. The respect she once forced with her voice was now completely gone. She saw Keanu across the set again. He was helping a young crew member set up a camera mount. He bent down to fix the snow guard near the bottom and laughed gently when the camera slipped. He looked just the same as before, calm, kind, simple. But now Amanda knew exactly who he was. She walked past him slowly. Her eyes lowered. Keanu glanced up at her and gave a small nod. No anger, no revenge, just peace. Amanda felt her throat tighten. That gentle nod hurt more than shouting ever could. Later that morning, the producer arrived on set with 2 senior team members. They called Amanda for a quick meeting in the side trailer. She followed them inside, her hands shaking, trying to stay calm. When she entered the small room, the door was shut quietly behind her. The producer spoke first. "I think you know why we've asked to speak with you." Amanda nodded slowly. "She whispered. One of the senior team members leaned forward, his voice firm but not cruel. "We've received several concerns from the crew. Some were silent about it until yesterday. Others came forward after the table read. We've reviewed it carefully." Amanda's eyes welled up. "I didn't know," she said quickly. "I didn't know who he was. It's not about who he was," the producer interrupted. "It's about how you treated someone. Anyone." Amanda went quiet. The second team member added, "Respect isn't given based on titles or fame. It should be given to everyone. And from what we've seen, this hasn't been your way." Amanda tried to speak again. "I was just trying to do my job. ID meme." The producer raised his hand. "We're replacing you." The words hit hard. Amanda sat frozen, blinking fast. "You can pack your things today," he continued. "You'll be paid for your remaining days, but you're no longer part of this production." Amanda's lips trembled. Does Keanu know?" The producer gave a small sigh. "He didn't ask for this. He never made a complaint. Never said a bad word about you." That made Amanda's heart break even more. "He didn't even ask for me to be fired." "No," the senior team member said. "This decision is ours, not his. He gave you kindness when you gave him none." Amanda stood up slowly. "I understand." She walked out of the trailer quietly. No tears, no drama. But her face showed everything: regret, shame, defeat. Back on set, the new assistant director was already arriving. A woman named Clara, soft-spoken but confident, greeted people warmly and asked what she could do to help. The energy on set shifted again, this time for the better. Keanu, who was now reviewing the script with the director, noticed Amanda walking toward the exit. She paused near him. For a moment, she looked like she wanted to say something, but then she simply nodded, just like he did before. Keanu looked at her gently. "Take care," he said. Amanda swallowed hard and walked away without a word. And, just like that, she was gone. The people on set returned to their work. They smiled more. They moved lighter, even though it was still cold. The atmosphere felt warm, all because one man chose not to fight with anger, all because he stayed quiet and kind. He didn't yell, he didn't punish. He let the truth speak for itself. And in doing so, Keanu ended her career not by force, but with grace. The day after Amanda left the set, things felt clearer. It was as if a heavy cloud had finally moved away. The crew walked with less stress, and their smiles came easier. No one had to look over their shoulder anymore. No one was scared of being yelled at for doing their job. Keanu Reeves was already there, early as usual. He was helping Clara, the new assistant director, unpack her things and get organized. Clara had only been on set for a few hours, but already the crew liked her. She was polite, respectful, and kind but firm when she needed to be. Clara looked around and said softly, "Everyone here looks nervous." Keanu gave her a kind smile. "They just need someone who treats them like people." She nodded and quietly got to work. Meanwhile, the producers were having a private meeting. Though Amanda was gone, they wanted to understand what really happened. They had received quiet reports from several crew members, some saying Amanda had shouted at people daily, others saying she made workers cry when no one was watching. The producers took these reports seriously. They also wanted to talk to the one person Amanda had humiliated the most, Keanu. A message was sent to his trailer, asking if he could meet them that afternoon. When Keanu arrived at the small office space on set, he greeted everyone with a warm, "Good afternoon." He sat down, calm and relaxed. The lead producer, Mr. Jensen, leaned forward. "Keanu, thank you for coming. We want to ask you something important, but first, we're sorry. We should have noticed what Amanda was doing sooner." Keanu shook his head lightly. It's okay. I've been around long enough to know that some people act out when they feel small. She probably thought I was just a quiet guy doing odd jobs. I don't hold it against her. Mr. Jensen looked surprised. You don't? No, Keanu replied. What would it change? She's already gone, and everyone saw it for themselves. I don't need to punish anyone. That's not my way. There. With silence in the room, one of the other producers, Sarah, leaned forward. But why didn't you speak up? We would have handled it immediately if we had known. Keanu smiled. Sometimes silence teaches louder lessons than shouting. If I had told her who I was, she might have stopped, but not because she understood. She would have just acted differently because of my name. That's not growth. Mr. Jensen sat back, thinking, You're right. Keanu continued. She needed to learn that every person deserves respect, no matter their job, their title, or their status. I just happened to be the one who showed her. Another producer, Mark, asked, Do you think she learned that lesson? Keanu paused. I hope so. He stood up and gave them a small bow. Thanks for checking in. I appreciate your care. Before he left, Sarah asked gently, Would you like us to tell the crew you forgave her? Keanu turned back and smiled again. They already know. That afternoon, the crew was buzzing with quiet conversations. I heard Keanu met with the producers. Someone whispered, Is he angry? No, another replied. He forgave her, just like that. Yeah, just like that. It shocked many people. In a world where people got revenge over the smallest insult, Keanu had shown patience, dignity, and kindness. Some crew members who had once been afraid of Amanda now felt safe again. A few of them even gathered after work and shared stories about how they had wanted to speak up but stayed silent. I feel bad now, one technician said. I saw how she treated him, and I said nothing. But maybe this is the lesson we all needed. Another said, that respect isn't earned by shouting. It's earned by kindness. As the week continued, Clara fit into the team like a missing puzzle piece. She ran things smoothly, and the crew respected her. But something had changed beyond just leadership. People started helping each other more. One person would hold a ladder, steady without being asked. Another would bring an extra coffee to the tired costume assistant, and Keanu. He kept doing what he always did, smiling, helping, listening. One day, young intern approached him. Mr. Reeves, he said nervously, can I ask something? Of course, Keanu said kindly. Why were you so calm? She treated you badly. Really badly. How did you not get angry? Keanu thought for a second. Because anger would have made me like her, he said softly. But kindness, that makes us different. It keeps us human. The intern nodded slowly. Those words stayed with him for the rest of the day, maybe for life. By the end of that week, 'twas clear. Keanu hadn't just helped the film. He had changed the people. Not with power, not with threats, but with quiet strength. And that was something no one would ever forget. It was the final day of the week, and the set looked brighter than ever before. The sky was clear, the snow had stopped falling, and the air felt less heavy. The crew moved around with calm faces. Smiles returned. Laughter could even be heard near the snack table. What had happened in the last few days had changed everyone. Amanda was gone. And now, things worked better. The new assistant director, Clara, had quickly won everyone's respect not through shouting, but by listening, helping, and staying kind. She gave directions gently but clearly. People followed her not because they were afraid, but because they trusted her. It made all the difference. But the biggest change on set was not just about Clara. It was Keanu. The way he had acted in those 3 days had touched something deep. Inside the hearts of the crew, most of them had never seen someone so famous behave. in such a simple and humble way. He never once used his fame to feel above anyone. He never raised his voice. He never demanded special treatment. Even after Amanda yelled at him, insulted him, and made him kneel in snow, he never fought back. Now, everyone looked at him differently, not as just a Hollywood actor, but as a man with true character. That morning, Keanu arrived early once again. He wore a light black coat and greeted the security guard at the gate with a warm good morning. He helped the catering staff unload breakfast boxes. He waved at the lighting team and checked in on a young intern named Max, who had slipped and hurt his wrist the day before. "You feeling better today?" Keanu asked with a smile. "Much better, thank you," Max replied. Still surprised someone like Keanu remembered his name. Later, during a break, Clara came up to Keanu. "The producers were talking about you again," she said softly. "Oh." Keanu raised an eyebrow, amused. "They said you didn't just save the film's mood, you saved the people." Keanu chuckled gently. Just did what felt right." "No," Clara said, her voice full of emotion. "You did more. You reminded everyone what respect really looks like." Just then, Martha, the makeup artist who had first recognized Keanu days ago, walked over. "Hey," she said with a grin. "Some of us were talking. We were wondering if you'd join us tonight after wrap. We're getting together at a little cafe nearby. Nothing fancy." Keanu smiled. "Of course, I'd love that."
The next morning, the set was full of soft laughter and quiet smiles. It was still cold outside, and snow still covered the ground, but everything felt lighter. People were moving faster, talking more kindly and helping each other without being asked. Something had changed after Amanda left, but it wasn't just about her. It was about the way Keanu Reeves had handled the whole situation. He didn't yell, he didn't demand. He didn't even raise his voice. And somehow, that changed everything. Clara, the new assistant director, stood near the main stage area, going over the call sheet. She had only been there a few days, but she already felt like part of the team. She looked up and saw Keanu walking toward her, holding 2 cups of coffee. "I thought you could use one," he said, smiling. Clara blinked in surprise. "You're giving me coffee. You've been working hard," Keanu said. "I just carried it," she smiled, took the cup, and nodded. "Thank you." As the crew started setting up for the next scene, people moved more freely. No one was scared anymore. There were no sharp orders, no shouting, just teamwork. During a short break, a few crew members sat together in the corner, talking. "You know what I still can't get over?" one of them said. Keanu didn't say anything. Not once. Another nodded. He had every reason to stand up and shout. She humiliated him in front of all of us. But he didn't. He stayed calm. "And now look," the third one added, pointing around. "We're all better for it." Keanu was nearby, helping a lighting tech adjust the height of a spotlight. He didn't ask for help. He just did it. That was how he worked, quietly, gently, always present. Later that afternoon, one of the studio's top executives came to visit the set. He had heard whispers of the Amanda situation and wanted to see things for himself. He walked around, shook hands, and watched how the team worked together. What he saw surprised him. Everyone was smiling. Everyone was helping. And in the middle of it all was Keanu, handing out gloves to some of the extras who were cold. The executive approached Clara and asked, "Is this the same set that had issues last week?" Clara gave a small laugh. "It's the same people, just led differently now." He looked at Keanu. "And him?" He led the change without saying a word. The executive nodded, impressed. As filming continued, the energy on set grew stronger. Scenes were shot faster. People were more focused, and the actors felt more relaxed. The entire production was moving smoother than ever. At lunch, Keanu sat with the makeup team, laughing at old stories. He didn't sit in a private trailer. He didn't separate himself from the others. He ate the same food on the same benches, sharing the same jokes. The young intern from earlier walked up to him again. "Mr. Reeves," he said, "I just wanted to say thank you." Keanu looked at him kindly. "For what?" "For being kind, even when you didn't have to." Keanu smiled and replied, "We always have to." Later that evening, when the day's work was done and the lights on set were being turned off, Clara looked around and felt something special. This wasn't just a film set. It was a team. And Keanu had built that not by leading loudly, but by being an example. The crew stayed a little longer that night, not because they had to, but because they wanted to. People shared warm drinks, told stories, and helped each other pack up equipment. Someone quietly said, "It feels like family now." And they were right. Keanu had done something most people couldn't. He had taken pain and turned it into peace. He had taken disrespect and answered with dignity. And in the end, he didn't just change the mood, he changed the people. Amanda's loud voice was gone, but Keanu's quiet actions still echoed everywhere. Not just in the halls, not just on set, but in their hearts. And no one would forget that. A week had passed since Amanda left the set. People were still talking about what happened, but not in anger anymore. The story had become something else now, something that inspired everyone. It wasn't about revenge. It was about how one man, with nothing but patience and kindness, changed the heart of an entire team. Keanu Reeves had never said anything bad about Amanda. He never pointed fingers. He never asked for her to be removed. Yet through silence and humility, he showed everyone what true strength looked like. By now, people on other film sets had heard the story too. It spread quietly through Hollywood, crew to crew, assistant to assistant. The words were always similar. He knelt in the snow for 3 days and said nothing. He forgave her. He didn't even want her punished. Back on the set, everything was running smoothly. Clara had built trust with the team quickly. People respected her not because she demanded it, but because she gave it first. That was the lesson everyone had learned from Keanu. On that bright winter morning, filming began early. The final scenes were being shot that week, and everyone felt proud of the work. The actors laughed between takes, the lighting team moved fast, and the sound crew worked like clockwork. But something even more powerful had grown among them: unity. People looked out for each other. If someone was struggling, someone else would step in to help. There was no shouting, no tension, no fear, just teamwork. And in the center of it all was Keanu, helping where needed, smiling at everyone, sharing stories, and sometimes just sitting beside a tired crew member to keep them company. One afternoon, the director gathered everyone in a large open space. On set, he stood on a small platform and raised his voice. "Before we continue, I want to say something important," he began. "I've been working in film for over 30 years. I've seen amazing actors. I've seen difficult ones too. But I've never seen anyone lead with this much heart." He turned toward Keanu. "You didn't shout. You didn't demand anything. You let your actions speak." And we all listened. Everyone turned to Keanu and clapped slow at first, then louder, until the entire team was cheering. Keanu looked surprised. He didn't expect it. He stepped forward slowly and raised his hand gently. "Thank you," he said. "But I'm not the one who made this happen. You did. All of you. When you decided to treat each other like equals, like family, that's when the change began." He paused, then added, "Kindness is not weakness. It's power, just in a different form. Quiet power, gentle power, and it lasts longer." His words touched everyone. One of the young set designers wiped her eyes. Another crew member whispered, "He's not just a star. He's a good man." As filming continued over the next few days, the story of Keanu's quiet leadership stayed alive. It became something people would remember not just for this movie, but for life. Weeks later, when the movie wrapped, the entire crew gathered for a final group photo. Snowflakes were falling again, just like they did on the first day. But this time, the snow didn't feel cold. It felt peaceful. Everyone stood together: directors, assistants, camera crew, costume team, sound techs, extras, actors, and right in the middle, smiling warmly, stood Keanu. As the photographer counted down, someone from the crew shouted, "Kneel in the snow, Keanu." Everyone laughed, including Keanu himself. "Only if you kneel with me," he replied. And to everyone's surprise, he dropped to his knees in the snow again, just like that first day. But this time, he wasn't alone. The entire crew, laughing and smiling, dropped to their knees with him. It wasn't a joke. It was a thank you, a moment of unity. The camera clicked, and that picture became a symbol of respect, of kindness, of quiet power. Amanda's name was never mentioned again on set, but her story, how she lost everything because of her own actions, was a lesson everyone learned from. Even Amanda. Months later, someone said she had taken a smaller job on a student film and was no longer shouting at people. Maybe she had changed. Maybe Keanu's quiet strength had reached her too. The film they made went on to become a success. But even more important than box office numbers or reviews was the story behind the camera. The real story. A story of a man who chose dignity over anger. A story of how silence can be stronger than shouting. A story of how kindness can end cruelty. Keanu didn't fight with fist. He fought with grace. And in doing so, he didn't just end someone's career, he taught a lesson the world would never forget.